There is a podcast that lies between the imagination of two simple-minded earthlings. Travel with these two longtime friends, Jimbo and 80s E, as they attempt to explore the fifth dimension. Follow along with them as they take the key and unlock the door to the vast space between shadow and substance. This podcast is one of trivia, of insight, and of sounds and ideas from one of the greatest television shows ever produced. You are embarking on a timeless journey. There is your signpost up ahead. You are entering the tragedy of cinema's Twilight Zone.
You've seen them. Little towns tucked away far from the main roads. You've seen them, but have you thought about them? What do the people in these places do? Why do they stay? Philip Redfield never thought about them. If his dog hadn't gone after that cat, he would have driven through Peaceful Valley and put it out of his mind forever. But he can't do that now. Because whether he knows it or not, his friend's shortcut has led him right into the capital of the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema podcast, the Twilight Zone series. I'm your host, Jimbo, and today I'm joined once again by these two fellow frugal cohorts of mine.
Hey, this is Bond in Texas.
Hey, this is 80Z in Indianapolis, Indiana. And before we move on,
Wonderland.
yeah. And before we move along too far in the episode, we got to give a shout out to our favorite college national championship team, the Indiana Hoosiers. They won the 2026 national championship on Monday night. We were all three talking about it off the air, and it was a great game, capped off by a championship touchdown run by one Fernando Mendoza. So congratulations to the 25-26 Indiana Hoosiers.
Undefeated
national champions.
That's impressive.
Bond, who's the last sports team being undefeated and win a national championship?
Wow, that's a hard one. I have no idea, man. Is it the UT?
It's not that hard. It's your Indiana Hoosiers with Bob Knight, a basketball coach back in
1975?
Eric, what year was it?
1976. They lost in 75. They actually almost went two whole seasons without losing a game. But I forget, one of the players broke their leg late in 75 in the tournament, and they didn't complete the national championship run in 75.
So IU, no longer just a basketball school, now a football school.
Oh, yeah. They're moving up in the world. Just a great story, too. I heard a lot of the commentators saying it's like one of the greatest stories in college football history, and I was like, wow, that's saying something.
Well, they were saying it's one of the most losing or losingest team in college football.
We're not anymore.
Yeah,
I think Northwestern is below us now. But Eric, I don't know if you heard this. Me and Bond were talking before you hopped in the Zoom call. Mm-hmm. Bond told me that this week some of his students discovered that he has a podcast.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
How much?
They said, are you on a podcast called Tragedy of Cinema?
You've been discovered.
He said, yes. And if you download all the episodes, you get an A in my class.
You get 10 extra points if you listen to the episode.
Did you hear that, kids? So make sure you tell your friends, tell all your friends. Matter of fact, go take your parents' phones and download the episodes on their phone too.
Earn some points on your next exam.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, are you guys ready to dive into the Valley of the Shadow?
Oh, man.
All right.
Eric, we're doing pretty good. We're on season 4. Mm-hmm. What is this, episode 3?
Episode 3.
And I promise you, if this episode is anything like the last two, I am getting out of here in my truck, driving over there, and we're going to have words, because the first two you made me waste my time. Well, you better hope this one redeems itself.
Be careful in this snowmageddon. It might take you a while to get over here.
Or 4-wheel drive, baby. I'll be over there.
All right, well, let's launch in and we'll see where we land on this episode. It's entitled The Valley of the Shadow, taken from Psalms 23, if I'm not mistaken, out of your scripture. This is the Twilight Zone Season 4, Episode number 3, as mentioned beforehand. It comes in with an IMDb rating of 7.8. And just a few statistics about this episode. It was directed by Perry Lafferty, and if you've been keeping track, Perry Lafferty, this is his third in a row. Now, it's important to note that these weren't all recorded or filmed in sequence, so I think there was a couple episodes that were later episodes in the season that were filmed in between these, but the way it shook out, Perry Lafferty actually directed the first 3 episodes that were aired in season 4. There's some stock footage music, and it was used, if you listen really closely and you're familiar with the episode 100 Yards Over the Rim, I believe that was in season 3. It might have been season 2. My memory's failing me. You might hear some familiar music. This episode had a total production cost of $95,800, which is pretty normal for this hour-long season 4 episodes.
It might be the cheapest one so far this year, right? Weren't the other ones over 100?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct on that. I think this was the cheapest one in season 4 so far. The original air date for this episode was January the 17th, 1963. And this brings us to our favorite segment in the episode, the segment we like to call On This Day in History. All right, you guys ready for On This Day in History?
Yeah, hit it.
Well, there's not a whole lot of history, but there are several notable birthdays. So we'll just put it like that. So on this day in history, for January the 17th, if we go all the way back to 1954, Omnibus, which starred Jacques Cousteau, it had its first television network debut. And I wasn't really familiar with Jacques Cousteau other than all the punchlines for the comedians in the 80s. I think Dana Carvey had like a big bit about it, but I know he was like an oceanographer. Are you guys familiar with Jacques Cousteau?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I remember too. Is like he would have like his own little undersea adventures. I think he had a lot of little television specials where he would like go underwater and show you different animals or show you the barrier reef or something like that.
So like the Discovery Channel before the Discovery Channel, somewhat?
Yeah, I think so.
Was he French?
Oh yeah, very French.
Okay.
We. Yeah,
the name kind of gives it away. That was kind of a dumb question, but so there you go for Jacques Cousteau, January 17th, 1984. This has probably got all of us. The Supreme Court rules 5-4 that private home use of VCRs to record TV programs for later viewing, it violates federal copyright law. So guilty as charged. How many TV shows, Jimbo and Bond, did you record on VHS tape?
Man,
filing cabinet full, I think, right?
Yeah.
Remember those VHS holders there was like a little tray and you would pull out and had the slots where you could fill them. Remember,
like 6 to 8 little cassettes.
Yeah, it was like dual sided.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. I did 5 years. I did 5 years in prison for that. What are you in for?
Yeah, I wonder if that's
Strokes reruns.
Was that why they put the FBI warning?
5 years too, right?
Exactly, man.
Was that why they put the FBI warning at the beginning of, when you would rent?
Yeah, they can't say that they didn't warn you.
Yeah,
it's right there at the beginning.
Yeah. January 7th.
I felt really like a rebel because it's considered piracy.
Right.
To do that. So I was like, arg, I'm a pirate.
That was the day Bond started walking around with an eye patch.
With an eye patch going, I'm going to record me some movies.
All right, January 17th, 1961, at the 11th NBA All-Star Game for some sports trivia. This game took place in Syracuse, New York. The West beat the East 153-131, and the MVP of that game was Oscar Robertson of the Cincinnati Royals, who was also an Indiana native. Well, this is the interesting part. He won the MVP at age 22, and he's the youngest player to receive the All-Star MVP honors. He had 23 points and 14 assists in the game. So all of you LeBron James fans out there, even LeBron couldn't pull off the All-Star MVP award, even as great as he was coming out of high school. Then finally, on trivia, and then we'll move on to birthdays, January the 17th, 1970, Sporting News named Willie Mays as the player of the decade for the decade of the 1960s, in which our episode takes place. So he was the player of the decade from 1960 to 1969. Moving along to birthdays, I'm sure you guys will recognize many, if not all of these. Born on January the 17th, 1706. We're going way back. He's a U.S. founding father. He's an inventor. He's an ambassador and the writer of Poor Richard's Almanac. And he was born in Boston, Massachusetts. Does anybody know the answer to this trivia question?
Benjamin Franklin.
Good job, you guys. I'm throwing these out in this structure for the fourth graders who might be listening.
Nice.
Yeah. He died, by the way, in 1706 to 1790. January the 17th, 1899. And he was an American gangster and a Chicago bootlegger. He was born in Brooklyn, New York. Anybody know the answer to that question?
Is it Al Capone?
That's correct, Bond. Al Capone, born in 1899, died 1947. Moving along, everyone loves this person. You guys are going to get this right away. January the 17th, 1922. She was an American Emmy award-winning actress. She had one of the longest TV careers as a female entertainer. She was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. She was Sue Ann Nevins on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. She was Rose on the Golden Girls, and she was born in Oak Park, Illinois, born on January 17th, 1922.
Betty White.
That's correct, Jimbo. She passed in 2021.
Are you smarter than a fifth grader? Oh, wait, it's fourth grade, right?
Hey, we're doing great.
You guys are doing wonderful. January 17th, 1931, the American Tony, Emmy, Grammy, and Golden Globe winning actor. He was in The Great White Hope, Star Wars. This is a big, the fourth graders ought to be able to get this. He is the voice of Darth Vader, and he was also in Field of Dreams. This particular actor was born in, I can't even pronounce this, Arcabutla, Mississippi.
That would be one James Earl Jones.
That's correct. Born in 1931 and passed in 2024. Born January 17th, 1942, this American boxer, world weight champion in 1964. This looks funny how I wrote this down. 1964 through 1967. And boy, I must have messed up in my writing down there. But this particular boxer was born in Louisville, Kentucky. I think you guys
That's Muhammad Ali.
That's right. Otherwise known as Cassius Clay.
Cassius Clay.
Just throw that in there. Born 1942 and died in 2016. And then finally, again, there was a ton of these. January the 17th, 1962, Canadian-American actor, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask. He was born in Ontario, Canada. Nobody knows? Really?
Well, I missed it because my internet had unstable connection from all the shows.
Well, let me read it again.
Something about Canada.
Canadian act. It was a Canadian actor.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me try that again. Sure. It's January 17th, 1962. This particular Canadian-American actor was in I've never even seen this, but Eternal of the Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask. Yeah. There you go. And he is 64 years of age.
Wow.
That means I'm old.
So that concludes our This Day in History.
So maybe we'll get a Ace Ventura 3 when the bedpan calls soon.
Yeah, I don't know why Ace Ventura wasn't on the list of accomplishments.
Right.
That's
that was the movie back when we were in high school.
Jimbo, you going to tell us about a plot for this episode?
Sure. Let's talk about the plot of The Valley of the Shadow. We can do a simple one. We ain't got to go all deep dive on it. Basically, when a reporter is driving using some sort of wonky directions, whoever he got those from was not smarter than a fifth grader, right? He basically stumbles into a little peaceful town known as what, Bond?
Pleasantville, Pleasant Town.
Peaceful Valley, right?
Peaceful Town.
Peaceful Valley, right?
Yeah.
Because he needs some gas and he needs some directions because he's still a little lost, right? And things just start getting really weird when his dog sees a cat. The dog jumps out of the car, runs over, and this little girl's like, "Oh, my cat," and pulls out this little, I don't know, looks like a Walkman from back in the day. And and the dog disappears, right? And he's like, "What? My dog?" She said, "What are you talking about?" And from there, the town just gets weirder and weirder. And basically it comes down to they're holding a secret for a long time. I think it was 60 years now, 70 years, something like that. And they do not allow this man to leave.
Yeah.
He's stuck in Peaceful Valley.
Peaceful Valley was really peaceful. I mean, it lived up to its name.
And I've got a whole bunch of questions when we get to Peaceful Valley that I don't understand. So maybe you guys can help me out with that when we get there, when we talk about it at the end.
All right. Thank you, Jimbo.
Sounds good.
Bond, will you please tell us who's in this 1 hour long episode?
All right, man. Pay close attention. Our main character, Ed Nelson, as Philip Redfield. Philip Redfield is that reporter. He was in, well, let's just say that if you went to the drive-in 1955, he might have been one of your favorite actors because he was in all of those crazy monster movies. The two I wrote down were Attack of the Crab Monster and Teenage Caveman, but he loved all those cheesy Hammer movies and things like that. You also saw Natalie Trundy as Ellen Marshall.
Boy, did I ever.
Yeah, she had those little freckles. I love the little freckles, right?
Yeah.
Apparently everybody loved Natalie Trundy because she was married 5 times.
Yeah.
So, and she was in pretty much all of the Planet of the Apes movies, with the exception of the first one, but all the sequels, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, all those other ones, Escape From, all those.
I think I read somewhere where besides Roddy McDowall, I think she was, or she at least equaled the number of appearances.
Pretty much all of them.
She was, and then also she was in, in costume and also played a human. So I think she was one of the rare individuals that played a human and one of the apes. So that was kind of interesting.
Yes, they loved her in that movies. This movie star also has David, let me see if I get this right, David Opatshu as Dorn. He was in The Naked City. He was in Tarzan and the Valley of Gold. Dorn was one of the 3 men, the councilmen at the end, or like throughout the show, that like judged Philip as he was going through everything he was going through. Another one that was there to judge him was Dabbs Greer as Evans. He was on Gunsmoke. He was in The Green Mile. But I recognized him as the Reverend on Little House on the Prairie. Because at first I was like, who is that guy? Who is it? And then I was like, oh, that's right. He's the Reverend on Little House.
What was his name on Little House? I couldn't remember. Anybody remember?
Reverend Aldrin.
Oh, there
what was
go.
it?
Reverend Aldrin?
Aldrin.
Reverend Aldrin.
Okay.
Cool. It also had Jacques Arbachon as Conley. He was in Gunsmoke also, and he was also in a movie called The Shaggy Dog. I think that's a Disney movie. Did you notice the father of the little girl? The father of the little girl is arguably the most famous person in this episode.
Okay.
That is a very young James Doohan who plays Scotty on Star Trek.
Oh, really?
But think about it.
He's really
Star
young.
Trek hasn't been out yet, right? It didn't come out to what, 66?
Yeah, I think
then.
that sounds right.
So were they using phasers?
They could have been using some kind of space technology.
Or like the transports? Did Captain Kirk come back in time and drop this off here? You know how they always say you're not supposed to mingle in the affairs of that's their prime directive. You cannot interfere because it will alter the course of history. Did we see them leave a replicator down there on the...
They left, well, apparently not only a replicator, but they left everything. They left a book on, here's a book of instructions.
But did they?
Well, they had more than one invention that they used.
Right. But I mean, you see that, but you can also see like Think about like when they have the objects appear, disappear and reappear. It's kind of like when they energize, right?
So you think they're on the Enterprise? They're like, oh, there's a dog. Wait, where'd it go?
So what you're saying is
awesome.
they merged universes with Star Trek?
So.
Well, Eric, I don't know how versed you are in the Star Trek universe.
Not very.
But usually they say when they come across a different civilization or a different alien species, or they're exploring a new planet, they cannot do anything that will interfere or give an advantage to one or the other, like in a war situation or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just saying maybe Scotty accidentally beamed something down to this planet, right?
Oh, okay.
Drop something off.
I get
This
it.
movie, this show also has the little girl. The little girl was Morgan Brittany. She was in a movie called Gypsy. There was Sandy Kenyon as the gas station attendant, and he was also in episodes of Gunsmoke. And I tried to get the real name of the dog, but I couldn't find it. All I found was his name was like Raleigh in the show. Raleigh, come back! And that's pretty much the cast on this one.
All right. Well, we'll launch into our episode, and I think we want to have a little walk along this time, or watch along.
You want?
Okay. Well, I got
bits and pieces in it.
No, I wasn't going to say this one. I think we should do that on one that we have no notes for, like episode 4. Just hit play and let's go along. See what we
okay. Well, I do have an outline for this one. We can just mix it up and see where we land. Act 1 is the valley that isn't what it seems. So our reporter, William Redfield, traveling with his dog Rolly, become lost on a desolate Mexico back road and stumbles. I like the map too. It's like, looks like it's written in crayon, the one he pulls out.
That's what I said. I said, where did he get this map from?
Yeah. So he ends up in this quiet town of Peaceful Valley. He stops for gas, and then he tries to get some food and directions, but immediately he senses that something is off. And the gas station attendant, he seems really evasive and unfriendly, and claims that the only restaurant in town is closed. And what happens next? When Rolly, while he's getting gas, Rolly, the dog, he chases the little girl's cat, and the girl uses a strange handheld device to make the dog vanish. Her father pretends to search for Rolly, and then secretly restores him using the same technology. Philip is shaken but unsure of what he's seen, and he continues to press on. Let's park here for a minute. How well do you think it's going to go over? So Philip, he's sort of rough with the little girl, right? When he's like, "What did you do to my dog?" And he's like kind of in her face and stuff. Can you imagine that in 2026? Oh,
No.
Philip would have gotten his pantsuit off and probably thrown in jail. But, that struck me, that scene, like how different of a time it is now as it was back then.
Let's really call it what it is. Eric, we see somebody messing with one of our daughters like that, come around with a gun and just kill them. That's what that boil down to, right?
Yeah, I get that. But it reminded me of a time I guess when we were growing up, adults were always right, when we were kids. And if an adult told you to do something and they got in your face like that, I can remember situations like that, all the time growing up. They would set you straight,
They were dying on that hill.
Yeah. Yeah.
That reminds me of something else. Do you guys, I don't know why this popped into my mind, but we're going to say it right here anyway. Do you guys remember the door-to-door salesman about the vacuum cleaners or the Encyclopedia Britannicas and all that stuff? Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Did you ever buy anything from them?
My mom would buy. There was a company that sold frozen ice cream and frozen meats and
Schwann's?
stuff like that.
Schwann?
Was it called
the
Schwann's?
man.
Yeah,
Okay, there you go. And that's the only thing I know she would buy stuff from. She would look at the little categories, and there was this little stuffed chicken breast that she would love to buy, and then we would buy butter pecan ice cream, and that was the only one I think that went door to door that we actually bought stuff from.
All right, Bon, I'm gonna show you what kind of students Eric and I was. I'm sure you do fundraisers at your school, right, Bon?
Sure.
Jogathons, whatever. Eric, do you remember the Christmas kits?
I do.
Bond, they would send us home with this briefcase, white briefcase thing, right? and inside of it was a sample, if you will, of like everything that you were selling, like yo-yos or
it was junk, basically. Yeah,
it's just a bunch of junk nobody wanted. That's overpriced, and we would have to fill out these forms and go around and try to sell this stuff. Right?
Why is there always? There's always one kid in the class who gets his parents to do his selling.
Oh, and Joey took his dad took his Christmas kit to his work, and here's $10,000.
Yeah, and then he got like $100 gift certificate or something, and you know he didn't sell one thing. And I'm out here hustling, hitting the pavement in my neighborhood and going to all my broke neighbors, and they're like, "Get out of here, kid. We don't have any money."
I'm just hoping you're wearing like a little suit. Hello, ma'am. May I take a moment of your time?
I only did that one time for my daughter, dude. She brought home one of them stupid cookie dough fundraiser things, right? And I took it to work one time, the only time, and she actually won the grand prize and got a bike.
Oh, wow.
But I said, I'll just go buy you a bike the next time, because I had to deliver all that stuff. And guess who wasn't there to help me deliver it all? That's right, my daughter.
Yeah. I love to hate that kid who always got first every year and sold the most.
This one guy, remember when they used to unroll the money down the aisle? And you got to jump 3 like frog jumps, and you got that many dollar
got
bills.
That much money, yeah.
What? That's crazy.
Good times.
We're giving Bond all kinds of ideas.
I know. When I was young, we sold candy bars door to door. They had like those little cardboard briefcases full of chocolate bars.
Those are good.
Almonds. Yeah, they were great. And then you would go with the world's finest or whatever they were.
Yeah, I just had some of those the other day. The Walgreens is selling them now, like for the fundraiser, but they're smaller.
That's what I was going to say. They're not as big and thick as they used to be.
I said, lady. And I'll tell you something. I don't know how I got on this tangent, but we're going to talk about
we need to get back to.
Have you?
I don't remember this part of the show.
Every time, dude, them Girl Scout cookies come around, right? It's when I have to go in the grocery store or Walmart or something, and they got that sweet little kid out front. Mister, would you like to buy some Girl Scout cookies? I said, look, I ain't got no cash. We take debit cards now. I said, okay, let me go in and get my stuff. On the way out, I'll buy some. And I think this was last year or the year before. I tried to skirt around her while she was helping somebody else. She's like, oh, you came back. So I bought 3 cases of Samoas. Okay.
That's right.
I bought 3 cases, not boxes, cases.
Well, you did the right thing.
How much a single box costs of Girl Scout cookies?
It's like $8.
Yeah, they're like $6 to $8
there's like 6 or 8 in a case. And I bought 3 cases.
She just went home after that. She hit her quarter.
Yeah, they were packing up. I said, well, my job here is done.
Yeah, they saw you coming for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Valley of the Shadow of the
back on the porch.
All I'm saying is, if my dog disappeared right in front of me like that, I don't know how much yelling I would do as much as I would just be freaking out.
Good point.
I would have been more scared than angry.
Yeah, I think he was right to have a certain amount of righteous anger if his dog just disappeared. But
okay, let me ask you a question about that. So when they make something disappear like that dog, where does it go? Does it just cease to exist? Or does it get taken like, remember the kid that would banish everybody out to the field?
Out in the cornfield?
Cornfield?
I think it just ceased to exist because they said like the atoms break up.
Right. Yeah.
So like if you turn the knob one way, the atoms break in pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you turn it the other way, it reassembles.
Right. Dorn kind of gives a longer explanation of, what happens.
How it works.
Yeah, on a scientific level, I think you're right. Let's move along across the street to the hotel, though. We go from the front porch at the hotel. Philip Redfield, he meets Ellen, who is the hotel proprietor. She is equally as curt, insisting that there are no vacancies, despite all of the room keys hanging in plain sight. So Philip's, his unease is at full throttle at this point. People they're like the gas station attendant, the dad, and now Ellen, they're all gaslighting him the whole time, right? They're just pretending like they don't know what's going on. And
this was one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes is when he was in the hotel and she's like, yeah, we don't have any vacancies. And there's like, but I see all the keys. And he's like, or she says, "Oh, we're so busy," and there's like all the keys are available.
Right.
And it's like every time she comes up with a different excuse, he shoots it down. That part's just hilarious.
Yeah. And then doesn't he pick up like a newspaper and he's like, "Hey, a lot of stuff's happened since the 50s or something like that." Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a newspaper from the 50s or something.
Yeah.
When Stalin died.
So, attempting to leave town at this point, he goes and he crashes into an invisible wall, destroying his car and apparently killing Rolly. Now, this is what got me really upset. You killed my dog. It's on. So, Jimbo, I think we'll just throw this in here. You have some trivia on the car crash and the cinematography behind it.
Let me get it from my trusty The Twilight Zone companion book by Mark Scott Zickrey. This is one of my favorite books I own. I think it might be an original printing too, because it's starting to fall apart, but we got to get her fixed. So most of the effects in this episode were accomplished easily by reversing the footage so that blood seems to flow backward and disappear, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, or by jump cutting from a shot of a person standing in the middle of a room to a shot of the exact same scene minus the person, giving the illusion that the person had been teleported. But director Perry Lafferty recalls an effect that wasn't quite so simple. Quote, "The script required us to create the illusion of an automobile driving down a country road and hitting an invisible wall, causing the car to be more or less demolished. We got a very effective sequence out of it by buying 2 old identical cars and wrecking the front of one of them. Through a series of cuts, the car was made to appear to slam into the unseen obstruction. The critical portion of the sequence was achieved by putting a 1-inch chain around the back axle and running it with about 20 feet of slack to a steady nearby tree where it was tied off. By framing a portion of the road, a stuntman drove the car into the frame of the camera, and when the slack was used up, was slammed against the steering wheel. The camera was undercranked, thereby giving the impression of considerably more speed than the 12 miles per hour the car was actually traveling. We then put the leading actor in the car and made a quick cut of him going forward precisely where the car hit the wall. We then switched the, quote, good car for the identical wrecked one and made another angle head onto the car showing the front end pushed in. The only thing humorous about this whole episode, and it is slightly grisly, is that the professional stuntman hired to do the gag went into the steering wheel so hard, even at 10 or 12 miles per hour, that we had to call an ambulance and cart him off
That's crazy.
to the hospital.
So even the stuntman really got hurt, and he was only going 10 miles an hour. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That was a great special effect, though, because it looked like it hit something. I mean, like, I did a double take when the first time I saw it.
Yeah,
I was just casually watching it, and I hit it when they did that. I was like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah, it was very good. All right. I think that, the townspeople, I want to make this notation. So out of nowhere, does it say, I forget, inside the episode, I think somewhere like 900 people or something like that live in the town. It might have been in Rod's description. I forget. But so all of these townspeople emerge and they calmly escort Philip away as another resident restores Rolly to life, like after they're already out of frame, right? So using that same device, Rolly's brought back to life, which I was like a huge sigh of relief, because I was like, man, if they kill his dog in this episode and he doesn't come back to life, I'm going to be really mad.
Were you really going to be mad? I was like, I'm waiting just to see Rod Serling get letters from PETA in my notes when I take them.
I was like, man, that's brutal if they just let the dog die or whatever. So Philip realizes that he has crossed into a place governed by rules far beyond his understanding. And then that kind of closes Act 1. And I've entitled Act Number 2, The Price of Perfection. So Philip is brought before these town elders, and they interrogate him about his arrival and whether anyone knows his whereabouts, and they reveal that Peaceful Valley's astonishing technology, and it's called a replicator. It's capable of creating any object and any ray that can heal an injury or even death. And I'm going to skip ahead in the episode here. What do you guys think about we talked about the car special effect, but the stabbing special effect toward the end of the episode?
That was pretty cool.
That was good.
First off, that is the most dangerous letter opener I've seen in a long time. They're like, hand me the letter opener. Yeah. And it's this huge dagger. And I don't know, it was just really cool the way they had him bleed out, and then they sucked the blood back in, and his shirt got clean again.
Yeah, that'd be cool Yeah, that'd be cool to have some trivia on how they actually did that scene too, just like the car scene.
Well, it was at the beginning of that they shot it and just reversed the film.
Oh, but then like a stunt man, or what was he wearing, like a vest or something underneath, or exploding packets or something? Yeah, that was anyway. I was like, man, that letter opener does look pretty menacing.
I don't care if I knew how it worked. The second he calls me over there, and I know he's going to stab me in the chest with that thing, I would have been like, nope, pick somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking too. It was like, as an actor.
Even if I knew that they're like, yeah, but we're just going to press this button and you're just going to come right back. And you're like, yeah, I'm not going to listen.
Yeah, let's get somebody else to do that.
All right, so here's where I start having a problem with this. We're going to start talking about this right now.
All right.
Why would you go through all the trouble of showing this outsider, even though you have no intentions of letting him leave? Why would you go through and show him all this technology and, here's where we keep the secret book, but you can't touch it. It shuts the door. Why would you go through and show him how to put the files in to make the ham sandwich because he was hungry? Why would you go through all that trouble when all you had to do is pull out that little cone, erase his memory, and shove him back to the gas station?
Yeah.
This could have been over in 10 minutes.
Could have been, but yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's the one thing that bothered me. Why? Okay. Why, if you're the judges of this, the three guys, why do you take this stranger in? And have they taken every single person that's ever came to that town down there and showed them everything?
They were dying to spill their guts. That's what it was. They were like, finally, somebody's here. We're going to tell them. We have to tell somebody.
Right. Human nature. They just had to tell somebody. They've been keeping this secret for so long.
To see if he could actually belong into Peaceful Valley. Is that what you guys think?
Maybe.
I think so.
Possibly.
I think it's a screening process.
It doesn't seem very peaceful to me.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
That's just where I was thinking. Because I was like, why are we wasting all this time when we know he's like, because look, here's the gigantic original model, boom, but here's an even miniature version that we can do other stuff with. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just begin with?
Well, the big one's for the adults, and the small one is for little girls.
Yeah. And how old do you have to be to get one of those evaporator things, right?
Hey, I teach 4th grade. I wouldn't trust anyone in my class.
Except those couple of kids that are listening to our podcast right now. Hey, I fully support you guys having that technology.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
you say, Mr. Bond, Jimbo said so.
Yeah.
What about the security for this book that's got all this knowledge in it?
Yeah.
It didn't even have that at first. At first, I was like, "There's no alarm. There's no combination to this lock.
Nobody guarding
it
in
there and twist the knob."
Do you guys remember back in like the 80s, maybe early 90s, those car alarms are like, "Sir, please step away
from the car.
You are too close." Woo,
I do.
woo. Sir, please.
Yeah.
Remember those? Why didn't it have something cool like that on there?
The Viper. I remember one was called the Viper alarm that everybody had for a long time. Yeah, the replicator. It's able to create a ray that can heal injury and even death. And like you guys explained, the elders sort of let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. And they give him all the information. So I want to know did you guys understand it to believe that it was like some sort of alien that came there? Or was this just like a really smart Einstein type individual who was he had all these formulas in his head, and he was just like hundreds of years advanced in his knowledge? Or did you get the impression that it was like an alien?
I think it was meant to be an alien.
Okay.
Or a humanoid from another planet is what I was taking away from it.
Yeah.
I thought your theory was Trekkie.
That's right.
But let's think about it. If the guy did come and leave that stuff, he couldn't leave because it's Peaceful Valley.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I just assumed alien, some sort of alien.
Okay.
That dropped it off.
Dorn goes in, and unfortunately, I neglected to put this clip in, but he gives a really good, lengthy explanation about the scientist and being from another planet and how he was wise and a lot of his characteristics and how Peaceful Valley came to be and how it was a big secret. And earlier in the episode, he talked about how it was a failure on his part, because he lowered the wall and then let Philip Redfield in the first place. There was all these, they were having a discussion on the panel there, and like, oh, this is terrible. Like, how did we let this happen? And
so let me ask another question then. If you didn't want nobody in your town, then why do you have a sign up that says Peaceful Valley, turn left? Why not take that off, take that little ray, and build like a little shrubbery over where nobody can go down that road to get to your place, right?
Yeah.
Just take the sign down altogether.
I used to like this episode. Now it's really bugging me. I'm sitting here discussing it with you guys.
Well, just take the sign down altogether, because no one's actively searching for this town. The only way you're going there is if you need gas or food or need to go to the bathroom, because it's off the beaten path. It's off the main road. Mm-hmm. So when you saw the other road that heads towards Peaceful Valley, you wouldn't assume there was a town down that street. You might think, oh, there's a house, some sort of residency, but you wouldn't get the through traffic I don't think there's an interstate going through this town.
No.
Just take that sign down that says Peaceful Valley.
Right.
Yeah. So the panel basically tells Philip that he's not going anywhere, and Philip is outraged by this. And he's outraged by the fact that they have this secret technology that could potentially heal a lot of the world and people's suffering. And the counter argument to that would be no, because of the human nature, the way that it is, that they would use this technology to either probably like profit and make money, or they would bring some type of harm to humanity. So there's kind of like this push and pull between, philosophies, and that kind of plays out in the dialogue.
Well, and my mind started going, you just read a newspaper that said Stalin was dead. So you're not too far out of World War II. And you're thinking their argument's probably like, but what happens if this gets into like Adolf Hitler's hands? Right. Or, it's going to start World War III, and it ain't even going to be a war because they'll win easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their logic is pretty just. Yeah. I mean, I understand not releasing it to the masses.
I do too. I see both sides. I see Redfield's side, and I see the panel's point of view in this. And that's what makes the episode good for me, is like, I get that on a philosophical level that, if you had a cure for cancer and you're just sitting on it and not sharing it with everybody, of course, that would be morally objectionable. But if the same people took that cure and created something that, like some kind of evil weapon, biological weapon, that could be used as well. So sorry, Bond, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem. No, I think the one that gets me the most is the one that can return you back to life. How would you handle that on a global scale?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How would you if you had a machine that returns people to life, what does that do to the population? What does that do overnight? You know what I'm saying? How does that affect the world if no one dies?
Yeah.
You can't release that to the masses.
Yeah. So
let me ask another question then, since we're discussing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they offered to him and said, you can stay out here the rest of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this can bring people back from the dead, as far as I know we see the one guy get stabbed, but I don't know if he actually died or did it just heal his wound, right?
But the dog died.
That's
did
right.
He die?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Looked dead to me.
He didn't look so good.
Well, but I'm just saying. But
like the Princess Bride, he's only mostly dead.
Because if that's true, then they could have somebody could go around and raise up people that have been dead 30 years and they're just a bunch of bag of bones and stuff walking around. Or can they revert them back to what they originally looked like?
Yeah, I would say that part's probably unclear from this.
Well, I mean, assuming that the dog was pretty messed up, and the guy who got stabbed probably doesn't have a scar where he just got stabbed in the chest. You know what I'm saying? So if it returns you to perfect health, is what I would assume. I would assume that, how many, if the guy takes off his shirt, is he going to have like all these stab wounds from every time a visitor comes by? It's always his turn to get stabbed.
He's like a voodoo doll. Well, let's move along from Philip's perspective again. We kind of talked about this at some length. He accuses them of arrogance and moral cowardice, arguing that their secrecy condemns millions to unnecessary suffering. And because Philip witnessed this technology in use, the elders decree that he must either remain in Peaceful Valley forever or die to protect their secret. and an invisible barrier confines him to a small area, a house, like a sort of house that I guess they built it for him. It kind of reminded me of the episode in season 1 with the connection of Roddy McDowall and Planet of the Apes. Roddy McDowall played in an episode in season 1 where he was like a human zoo animal, attraction on another planet.
That was the exact episode I thought of too. The second he couldn't leave the house, I was like, oh my gosh, he's in an alien zoo.
Right. So he's a prisoner essentially in this house, and during his confinement period, Philip grows closer to Ellen. Now I'm gonna take a leap here and they were wearing different clothes and Ellen was wearing different clothes, so I'm gonna assume that some time had passed between their initial meeting, like in the motel or hotel or whatever it was, and then later. So you start to get, and this is another element that I think made the episode better, was you get this romantic element in the episode. It starts to develop, and he tries to open Ellen's eyes to her own lack of freedom and insisting that the elders would never, or she's insisting that the elders would never allow her or anyone to leave. And torn between duty and emotion, Ellen ultimately agrees to help Redfield escape. And so she disables this invisible wall and offers to drive him out of town. And Philip secretly uses the replicator to create a revolver. So he's back in, like you guys talked earlier, the lack of security inside the vault or whatever. And then he gets a little punch card out and slides it in the slot and then creates the gun.
Why? Yeah. Why go through the time of putting the stupid thing in the slot for a gun that these other guys have this thing that can just bloop, the bullet comes out. Bloop, bloop.
Oh,
why didn't you just take the original
and
erase them from history, right?
Yeah.
And during this time, if you notice, the lady has his car fixed. Did she use the little tool to fix his car too? I'm assuming so.
I don't know if it works on automobiles.
It has to because it was fixed, right?
It was fixed.
Yeah,
it was working. Why would you have a card for a .38 revolver anyway?
All right. This is Peaceful Valley, and you got all kinds of gun files.
He even says there's no crime. There's no... He tells you how peaceful Valley is, and you're like, but just in case, we have a punch card for a .38 revolver. And I like the fact that it's like everything's alphabetized. All the cards are alphabetized to those files. He's like, do. Here it is, gun.
I mean, can he get to like suit of armor or something? Right?
Yeah, I like the fact that...
How were those created? How were those punch cards created? Did the alien drop off like files and files and files?
I know.
I think it was in the book, right? If I remember correctly. Ain't that what he said?
The book was all the codes in the book?
That's what I think, the original book.
That's what makes it so great is like this scientist is supposed to be so technologically advanced, but they're still using 1960s technology.
Oh, yeah. Use a punch card to make a ham sandwich.
Well, let me ask you guys this. We know he goes to the safe to pull out the book, right? After he gets the .38 revolver. It goes up, the thing, the alarm goes off, he runs with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what we know now at the end of this episode, do you think the 3 overseers created stuff like that to put in the files that weren't originally in the files to begin with, just because they know he was going to pull something like this?
Possibly. Yeah, that's a possibility, I think. It's sort of a test, right?
Oh, yeah. I think the whole thing was a test and he failed.
Oh, it was, but I just don't know if the gun thing was actually in there before he went to make it, like somebody planted it there for him to find to use. Mm-hmm. If I were them, I would have made it with blanks. So
yeah, right. So that's what I entitled Act 3 was the test of humanity. Once outside Peaceful Valley, Ellen reveals the truth. The book is blank. This is our twist. And Philip's escape was a test. She uses the device to dematerializing him, proving she was never powerless. And I just put in here, Philip was taken by her womanly wiles, this teasy twist really cut deeply, right?
Oh yeah,
that was her bad, man. We was all rooting for him. She's quite an attractive young lady.
Yeah, she played him.
We're like, oh, we finally found it. This reporter finally found love.
I know, but
and she finally found love. She loved him.
She tricked him.
Up there.
I feel sorry for her because how many guys have gone through this town and she's fallen in love with them, and then they test him, and then he fails every time.
Yeah. Why can't they just? None of them were married. That what I got from it, right? None of them. I didn't see any spouses anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. They didn't really show.
We know somebody's there because we're procreating a daughter somewhere along the way.
Right. Yeah.
And is there a hospital there for babies to be born? Well, I mean, I don't know.
A lot of questions.
There's no sickness there.
A lot of questions.
Questions.
I think Ellen did have certain level of feelings for Philip, though. We'll just throw that out there. I think she was a little bit torn. At least I like to hope so. So the elders are revived using their technology. Remember, they're back in the lab, and they've gotten shot with a gun, and they declare that Philip's choice to steal knowledge and resort to violence confirms their belief that humanity is unfit to wield such power. Ellen admits.
Do you think they were really dead?
I don't remember. Did they?
He shoots all three of them.
He shoots all three of them. Well, who brings them back to life then? I missed that.
It have to be the girl.
Okay.
Right.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I think so.
It doesn't show her doing it, but that's the consensus. Okay. So Ellen admits that while she was a part of their test, her feelings for Philip were real. Philip is not killed, but executed symbolically. So we have this scene here, kind of, I guess you could call this a double twist. So like, AKA the Men in Black treatment. That's what I put down here. That's what Philip gets, right? Rendered unconscious, his memories of Peaceful Valley are erased. He's returned to the gas station. His car is intact as if nothing had happened. And Philip awakens as the attendant. He finishes like filling up his gas tank. He's confused but unharmed, and he asks for directions and drives away. And as he passes through the town, he glimpses Ellen watching him with tears in her eyes, and he feels a brief sense of deja vu, and then the moment fades. And that brings us to the end of our episode. All right.
Good one.
Yeah, I think so. And there's literally, we gave the trivia already. There's really sparse trivia on this episode. Not a whole lot here at all.
Well, I think that the people that live in this town, they can leave. So when we're asking, like, is there a hospital? Do they have babies there?
Mm-hmm.
They just go to the next town and do all that kind of stuff. Because it's not like they can't leave the town. If you're a full-fledged believer in what they are doing, then you could just leave. You could just go and come back.
But doesn't they make the statement that nobody ever leaves Peaceful Valley?
Well, you really don't have a need to, I guess. I mean, you don't have to go grocery shopping if everything's on a card.
You don't have to go to a doctor because they can heal you.
Yeah, because they can heal you. So for the most part, I would say 95% of the time, you wouldn't have to leave.
I don't think you ever have to leave.
And that was kind of Ellen's argument, right? To Philip, like, why would I want to leave? You know?
Yeah. So if you're Philip, would you have stayed?
Absolutely.
For Natalie Trundy? Yeah, I'd probably stay.
Yeah. Absolutely. No question.
Yeah, only because she owns a hotel and she's a good-looking chickie.
Yeah.
And not only that, but she made sure, that he had everything he needed. When you remember we were stuck at the house?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a sidebar for Natalie Trundy, I guess, like Grace Kelly in the last movie review that we did, To Catch a Thief. She was in a bad car accident. I think she was in her early 20s in this episode. And she was in a car accident that kind of limited what she could do acting wise.
Yeah,
so
I heard
it's kind of sad.
She was out of acting for like years, right?
Yeah. So
because of a back injury.
All right, I don't have any trivia per se. Like I mentioned before, who wants to go first on their review?
I'll go first.
Okay, I'll go in the middle, and I'll give Bond the last word.
All right.
All right.
So here we go. I like this episode. I think it was a very good story. Special effects were great. Acting was great. I really didn't have much to say except the stuff that I pointed out throughout this episode. You could have done, and if they would have just explained a little bit more, like, oh, well, we had blanks in the guns, so didn't really hurt us. We were fake dying, or if they would have just went a little bit deeper into that, I would have liked it a lot more, I think. Maybe give us a happy ending, have him escape. And then it would have been cool as if he was in Peaceful Valley and he left and he got that book and he opens up the book, right? And it's empty once he gets to whoever is, let's say New York. Okay, that's where his home is. And he's with her. They get to New York and he's like, look, I got this. And he opens up and it would have been empty there. And then you could have seen him at his typewriter writing his novel. And it's all about this science fiction novel about this gamma gun that can devaporize people and transform them somewhere else and all that. So with that said, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it compared to the last two sinkers we got. It held my attention. They killed the dog and it was like, oh man, Rod, you're getting ready to get in a lot of trouble right here from a lot of people. You just disowned half your membership or half your viewership. And my prop piece that I'm going to take, Bond, I get to pick first prop. I am not going to take the ham sandwich because that's probably what Bond will take. He's
wonder what he's going to take.
I'm not taking the car because Eric will probably take the car, the crashed version. Give me the Joseph Stalin is Dead newspaper.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Very nice. You can put that on the wall.
Yep. I'm running out of room in the old mansion here. So,
yeah.
All right, 80s.
All right, my turn. I like the philosophical tension in this episode. I would echo a lot of the same sentiments that Jimbo just already talked about, so I won't go over those again. Such as the special effects and the acting was really good, and I like the way that it was shot. It was a lot of close-ups. You don't really get to see Peaceful Valley expansively, right? They were like close, tight shots of like the storefronts and stuff, and it seemed to like maybe that was on purpose, maybe not. Like this effect of the town closing in on Redfield, right? Kind of like the house where it was like a prison. You got the feeling of a prison, I guess, is the way to say it. And I liked a lot about this episode. With it being a 1 hour runtime, it didn't feel like some of the other episodes where you felt like there was a cut and paste, like they had to fill time. This felt, perfect lengthwise. I'm going to give it I think IMDb gave it a 7.5. I'm going to give it I'm going to bump it up a little bit, like to 7.9, high sevens. It's the best one so far in season 3. I know we're not very far in, but I think I think we talked about this the other day in the chat. I think this is going to rank up there for this season as one of the top episodes. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but my prop piece, only because Jimbo didn't take it, of course, I want the replicator. That's the prop piece that I want.
Bond's happy. He's getting his ham sandwich.
Hopefully I didn't.
He's going to come up with some odd thing that was hanging at the back of the auto shop or something stupid. Bond will take the dog.
Yeah, this is crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, hey, you guys made some really good points. I was back and forth on this episode, just like you guys were. There's some great questions that were brought up. What would I do? How would this work? It was entertaining. I do agree with Eric in the fact that this is the first episode of this season that didn't feel like an hour-long episode. It didn't feel like a 30-minute episode that was trying to be stretched to an hour-long episode. It actually made sense. The pacing was good. But here's the deal. Okay, this is the third episode of season 4. Now, let's just say you went to school on Monday and you got punched in the eye and you got a black eye. Then on Tuesday, you went to school and you got punched in the eye. Right in the eye, you got a black eye. On Wednesday, you went to school, but nobody punched you in the eye. Would you come home saying, wow, what a great day? That's kind of the way I feel with this episode. It's like, I've been punched twice already. The fact that I wasn't punched doesn't make this a good day.
Okay.
It's just because we used the replicator device on your iPod.
You guys are basing the quality of this episode with the stuff we've already watched this season, man.
Okay.
Hey, that's what we do when we do our top 5 episodes of the season at the end, right?
But this episode was not an 8. This episode was a 7.
Okay.
Maybe a 7, only because Ellen's a cutie, so she gets a couple points for her freckles.
Bond wants to pet the cat, so that's another couple points.
Yeah, the cat's a nice kitty, so shout out to Bandit here recording with me. Yeah, I'm going to say it was a 7. It was a good episode. I like this episode. This episode makes me want to watch the next one. I was thinking, in 1963, like I said, I never saw an episode of Twilight Zone, and I got turned on to season 4.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody said, dude, you got to watch the show. It's a great show. I start with season 4, episode 1, and I'm going, nah, it wasn't so good. Then I watched the second one. Nah, it wasn't so good. Assuming I came back for the 3rd episode, this one actually would make me want to watch the next one. So I'd be like, okay, that was pretty good. I think I'll watch the next one.
Well, let's hear a little preview.
Piece,
sorry.
Well, my prop piece is Raleigh the dog.
Oh, that's a good one.
That big old shaggy dog.
Yeah. He was a good boy.
He was a good boy.
Yeah.
No, that cat was nothing but trouble.
All right. If you're in flux, as Bond described, I love those analogies, by the way. Those were great. And you don't know whether you would watch the next episode, here's a little preview maybe to whet your appetite.
We move next on Twilight Zone into a shadowy area that treads a very thin line between flesh and fantasy. You'll see a performance by Dennis Hopper that, even from my rather close-in perspective, strikes me as an exceptional one. Our story is called He's Alive, and if this doesn't get you where you live, you'll find it close by in the suburbs.
Need medical attention?
We don't need any.
Okay, Jack. Hey, Jack. You forgot your flag.
There'll come a day when guys like you will crawl on your belly just to salute this.
Who's out there? Who is it?
A friend, Mr. Vollmer. Come down, Mr. Vollmer. Come down and we will talk.
All right. There was a preview for next week. Jimbo, you want to shut us down?
Excited. Ooh, can we? Can't wait.
Another on the nose Twilight Zone.
I don't know. He seemed like a nice guy.
Z, come down. I need to talk to you. Yeah, buddy. Coming out in the middle of the night to a guy standing under a street lamp. No thanks, right? But we'll find out next week if I change my mind or not. Yeah, we are the Tragedy of Cinema Podcast. We hope you're enjoying the Twilight Zone series. It's been a lot of fun. Been a lot of years we've been doing this. So we're trying to trudge through this fairly quickly. We're actually on the ball for once. Which means we'll probably finish this about 2029. But yeah, if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Facebook, follow us on TikTok, just wherever you want. You can reach out to us. So, but with that being said, this is for Bond students listening. Bond said you could take tomorrow off.
Provided tomorrow's Sunday.
And with that being said, this episode's coming to close, and that's a wrap.
And
cut.
You've seen them. Little towns tucked away far from the main roads. You've seen them, but have you thought about them? Have you wondered what the people do in such places, why they stay? Philip Redfield thinks about them now, and he wonders, but only very late at night, when he's between wakefulness and sleep, in the Twilight Zone.